Part 2. The bottom half manages up, while the top half manages down. The content for this podcast is from my book, Advanced Success Secrets. You get a free copy of each of my 8 bestsellers from alexhammerbooks.com. That's AlexHammerbooks.com. Continuing from the end of part 1. We are relational creatures who learn from each other in our greater environment. And this starts right from the beginning, I suppose. Sure, a baby can manipulate down as well. It can move its blanket, shake its rattle, etc. But the amount of the world that is seemingly out of control is vast for an infant compared to the amount that is within its control. So the baby has a lot of managing up to do. And of course, through life, we continue to self-regulate as well. We alter our own responses and behavior based upon what has worked or not worked for us in the past. This is learning. There's also observational learning, what we see happen to others as well or hear about. So the world is big and we are small, especially when we are young. The world collectively is, of course, always much larger and more powerful than we are individually. But remember how large your house seemed as a child versus when you saw or visited it as an adult? Or how powerful your parents seemed, if you can remember it at all, at a very young age? So, managing up is critical for survival. As a baby, you can see how easy it could be to hold a vulnerable to the world mentality. Yes, I need to develop my ability to make friends in the world. We have an entire process of socialization for that. But I also have to have a growing and astute awareness of the powers that be, how they are impacting me and have the power to impact me. I must be vigilant and learn, including learning about others. An important aspect of managing up can be the phenomenon of magical thinking. When objectively you may be more weak and helpless, dependent in the world, it is a scary and likely terrifying thought to think to oneself, I am weak and helpless in the world. So we develop magical thinking to make ourselves feel more powerful. If I count to 10, nothing bad can happen. If I ignore things, they do not exist. I can make somebody love me or want to take care of me. These are the types of things that we begin to tell ourselves. Magical thinking begins to explain a lot about managing up, especially in regard to our being critical of authority, etc. How can it aid in our survival if we are alienating those who are more powerful than we are? Well, magical thinking, as its name implies, creates kind of a distortion field. I am not powerless, I am powerful. Hence, you see that youth, for example teenagers, take the most reckless and dangerous chances. I am invincible. Nothing can happen to me. It's scary. I'm being a teenager. Every age of life, of course, has its own great challenges. I'm still young as a teenager with a limited number of years of life skills, but so much more is now expected of me. I have pressure to develop social skills with the opposite sex, for example, and all the challenges therein. My parents, in some cases at least, want me to start doing more things on my own. Chores, anyone? Get good grades? Play a sport? Or have an after-school job? Hey, where did all these grown-up pressures come from? They're even talking about me developing a career and learning to support myself in a few short years. Hey, let's not get carried away here. Because we are not objectively at a point where we may feel ready to handle life fully on its own terms, who of us ever fully is, the realization of that feeling could be disabling and terrifying. We compensate through magical thinking. Hey, life is a piece of cake. I've got it all under control. Nothing can happen to me. I am invincible. And a lot of dangerous and reckless types of behavior can, and certainly does, occur out of that mindset. How do we ever know what the boundaries of life are if we haven't tested them? Those a little older have more life experience, more years of going through the school of hard knocks, and have come to learn that life is not all peaches and cream. This awareness breeds a certain amount of caution, and in some more than others, jadedness and cynicism, which is hard for the younger person with the magical thinking and less life experience to understand. A caution born out of life experience could seem to the young to be weakness, and as such possibly something to be exploited. My parents or other adults, they're so old school. They're boring. They're dull. They're afraid of everything. They were brought up in a different world and don't understand how the world is now. I'm smarter than they are. Why would I listen to them? You get the idea. We need some of this pushback against others to develop our own identities. The child who is throwing temper tantrums in the terrible twos and terrible threes is learning, in perhaps an extended but more powerful manner than crying, about his or her own power, basic to a sense of self. End of part 2.